Hi everyone, welcome to episode 5 of the Blackline Coaching Podcast. Today we are talking all things Keirin, watching some of the best Keirin rides over the last few years and discussing how those guys made those wins happen. We hope you enjoy and let us know what you think in the comments.
Here we go then, 3 laps to go, in fact 2.5 to go. And now is Pervis going to win this world title. He's going to the front. This is going to be really close. A big move on the outside. Maximilian Levy is trying to go with this one. Pervis is going to leave this late. He is almost coming up to the wheel. He's leaving a gap so he can drag race his way back onto the wheel. Levy is there. The French are going absolutely nuts in this stadium. Francois Pervis working hard. It's a big challenge on the outside from the New Zealanders. He is getting out to the line. Francois Pervis, look at this. The world title goes to the Frenchman.
So what I really like about this race is I think it's got all the golden principles of what you need to do to build towards a good Keirin. So at the start, Pervy, I think he's in position 4 or 5. He's towards the back. He sees, he's in position 2. He sees someone coming from the back and he makes them work really hard to get to the front, increasing the speed of the race, essentially putting everyone else on the back foot. So he's invested so much work when he sees someone else coming. He's really made them work hard to get there, which means the pace of the race is now so much higher. He's in the slipstream. The pace of the race is really high. And he's built the speed up without putting a load of work in himself. He then really, really well protects his position. Owain comes over the outside, leaves the red just a tiny bit just to hold that position. So he's really, really defensive of what his position is. He then leaves a gap, space to race, so he's got something to move into. And then towards the end with a lap to go, when he's really challenged by the others, he then has to fully commit and he reaches a peak speed. And I think those 4 golden principles at some point go into every good Keirin race. You increase the speed of the race, defend your position, you leave a gap to use, and then you rush the gap and find a peak at the end. And I think that example there has basically got all of those in one, and it's just a perfect race from Pervy.
Why do you think it's so important to increase the pace of the race? And the only reason I say that is often you're told to let one rider over, right? And that means
if you just let one rider over, every other rider can follow. If you make them work hard, riders begin to get strung out. So by putting in effort early in a race, making someone work hard to get past you, you're increasing the speed of the race and you're stopping all the danger from other riders. Because the faster the race is, the more strung out the race is and the harder it is to pass. So if you're in wheel 2, position 2, and you've a lap and a half to go and this pace is really low, you're just in massive danger of getting swamped. So you can see with his race here, he's just textbook really. All those 4 points, all within 2.5 laps.
amazing, very cool to watch.
What do you think, Hayden?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything Joe said. It was a textbook Keirin from Pervy there. I think the value as well of pushing someone on as they're trying to come around is because they're terrified of getting stuck wide on the hip, whether that's on the red line, blue line, whatever. It's actually a really high chance of them, regardless of the distance to the finish, just getting the blinkers on and just going for it. You saw it there. Levy, when he did get round, he had to more or less fully commit to get round. You can't then sort of back off and go again. So the race is gone. It was going, sorry. And in P2 then, you're in the hot seat. You're following a rider who's definitely going to die off at some point before the finish line. At race pace, it's so hard for anyone behind to sort of come around you at that point. Like you're in the driving seat.
We spoke about principles in sprinting being important, but I think they're even more important in Keirin because the race is so unpredictable. You can't go in with a game plan any more than... firstly, you don't know where you're drawing until you go to sit down. So that gives you only maybe 2 minutes to devise a plan. So in itself, going in with a very specific plan is quite difficult because one thing can change or someone could come underneath you and suddenly you're in a completely different position. So you've got to go in with these golden principles. And I think Pervy basically demonstrated all of them there, or 4 of the main ones. And yeah, he just dominated that race.
Made it look easy, yeah.
In terms of like other riders, I know there's 5 other riders in the race, but in terms of opportunities to foil his plan to make it more difficult for him, like, do you think you just need to go before him? Because once that race was strung out, then the race is almost over. I think
it's because he was kind of in the driving seat. He saw someone coming. He was the one to instigate an acceleration to match them and just about let them over. So that basically forced him into the second position. If the guy on ahead didn't completely go full gas like he did in this race. He went full gas so Purvey could sit in. If the guy didn't go full gas, then Purvey's going to have to reassess because
could be looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, he's backing off. Chance for other people to come. But he was lucky in the fact that he made the guy push so hard that there was no other option but to keep going. So it basically meant that the race was strung out as soon as he made the guy work hard.
It's basically a dream, though, isn't it? You're in P2 and the guy in front of you is going full gas for 2.5 laps. Yeah. Like, you're just waiting for him to start dying off and you just hit it hard, fresh. There isn't a lot anyone else can do at that point to, I think, wrestle control out of your hands unless they've got so much speed on you.
And you can see Purvey just looking around the whole time. He's got really, like, he's in control.
He's not
under pressure.
Now we move on to a winner who was potentially not in control for the entire race.
Yeah.
The Dirty Bite leaves the track, 2.5 to go. At stake is the World Championship for the Keirin. Right on the front at the moment is Levy, then Bourgain. Kenny trying to come down the inside. Chris Hoy at the moment. He's looking to try and find a clear run. Now then, just over 1.5 laps to go. The pace beginning to lift now. Levy's on the front. He really has raised the tempo. Van Veldhoven of New Zealand is going with him. And there's a little gap back then to the British pairing. And it's Kenny trying to close down. And he does close down. And Hoy's in the wheel of Kenny, and Kenny is coming up onto the shoulder of Van Veldhoven, but it's still Levy at the front as they come down the finishing straight. Oh, on the line, who was it? Was it Van Veldhoven? Chris Hoy? They're saying Chris Hoy's got it. The clenched fist. How did he do that? Chris Hoy storms down the track to take his...
I mean, in terms of Chris, you know, I think... At the end of the day, it shows that Keirin's can be won from any position. Clearly, it didn't go to plan, right? And he was very much a number of things had to line up in the last 100 meters for him to pop out there. I think it's hard to say anything other than it went wrong and he chanced it and it worked out really well. There's a huge amount of skill to doing that in terms of recognizing that there's an opportunity, riding close. And I'm not sure if there's contact or not, but squeezing through the gap, like clearly there's a huge amount of skill. And I think you often see that in Keirin racing where riders are so comfortable with contact and being close. Like I certainly don't think it was a complete gift, but yeah, it worked out.
I think there was a moment with a lap to go where Chris is in fourth and it's fully strung out, and he knows he can't really go at that point because he's not going to get over 3 bodies in that time, but he still makes a move to go, which makes Jason fully commit. So you see here, around here, Chris starts to go around the outside. Knowing full well it's probably going to be quite hard to actually get over, but what that does do is make Kenny go full gas, stacking it up, and it allows him that option on the inside. So I think it's just an example of, one, you've got to be in it to win it, and it's not over till right at the end in Keirin. But also, you've got to get yourself up to race pace. So those few revs he put in with a lap to go basically got him up to that race pace, gave him those options that transpired in that last corner. If he just kept sitting on Kenny's hip, he would have just been stacked up. I think at that point you realise he knew he committed to one thing, didn't work. Assess your options and you can still win it late.
Really good points.
Do you think it's any stricter now? And would that be a potential DQ now?
I think it'd be okay. I don't know if he actually did touch him. I think it was more that Van Veldhoven knew he was there.
Yeah.
In reaction to him being there rather than actually touching. I don't know, to be honest. He may have tapped it. But I think it was still...
No, it was wonderful.
It looked fairly safe.
Yeah, it was great.
Just shows you what a difference it makes as well. With it being 2.5 laps, so that front rider could just absolutely hoof it for 2.5 laps.
Yeah.
And hang on pretty well.
Yeah.
That making it 3 laps makes it that much harder to be able to do that. Yeah. Like, it's not really a tactic you see anymore. It's someone going pretty much full gas for the full 3 laps. Different time zone. Different times. Do you remember when they used to have to fight off the... Do you ever do that?
I did. I never did it at elite level, but... No, I think it started in 2015 or 14. Yeah. And I was juniors.
Different times. Speaking of different times, this one's a little bit more of a throwback.
To go a long way, and Escarado here going to the front, loves to hit out from 2 to go. Bourgain likes to beat the front with going with high speed as well, but Here comes Teo Boss.
Teo Boss on the outside, and he has reacted superbly. Escoredo in second place, and also moving up, all squeezed out there. Badly there was Mulder, the defending champion. Look at Teo Boss, he's exploded. He's got the bell lap, and he's got 20 metres in front of the field. In second place, Escoredo, and Arnaud Tourneau in third, but look at this for a victory. Teo Boss is going to absolutely murder them.
I think this race shows two things really. Like, one, it shows the value of reaching a peak speed. I think a lot of people race in the Keirin, and because tactics is such a big part, they never get to a point where they reach a peak speed. They're either hampered by the run into reaching that, or they're more focused on what other people are doing. So they never actually close their eyes and hit a peak speed, where you see here the value of doing that. Secondly, a lot of people would have got to the front, looked back and reassessed.
Here, the chance would have been gone if you'd done that, wouldn't it?
But here, you've got to the front and you know your peak speed is so much quicker than everyone else in the race. You just continue to go. So Teo's sort of just ridden off front. And the final thing, I think, is like really using that slipstream to the last moment. He was like driving really hard into the bunch from towards the back of the race, staying so tight to that bunch until he got over to the front, and then he really committed onto the front. I think a lot of people you see in amateur racing, like they pass so wide, but you can really stay so tight to the bunch, get a full aerodynamic benefit, and that really helps you get your peak speed up. I think those three things essentially won in the race.
One of the great cycling moments. It's also keeps you hidden as well, right? When you sack into a bunch like that, you can't be seen. And I think it's important mentioning like how much faster was Teo than the other riders in that race.
Did he win the triple that year?
I think he did, but what I was getting at is in a Keirin, it's so important to remember that everyone gets in everyone else's way.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's probably not capable of taking 30 metres out of every single one of them in a match sprint, right? On a time trial. But, you know, because one thing I often speak to riders is they will say, I don't have a 2-lap sprint in me. I'll be tying up at the end. And it's like, yeah, but you can win a Keirin, and often Keirins are won with the rider on the front having their legs on fire, slowing down towards the end, because everybody else is getting in each other's way. You're stacked 4 across, all flicking and bouncing into each other, so you can rely on the riders getting in each other's way. But that's not quite what happened here, because he just, you know, stuck his head down, but it's evidence because the gap got so big. Like, you know, if it was a flying 200, he wouldn't have put 20 metres into everyone.
I think the principle of reaching a peak speed at some point in the race, obviously something he did there.
Absolutely.
I thought you might know this one.
2017.
This is my first Worlds.
I just watched this. Was it? I just watched this. And I just think, how did that man win that race?
Yeah.
Who's the German in this?
I think I was just sad. And I think I got second in the minor final. I was just sad. And then I watched this and I was like, what a ride. That's crazy.
Is it Levy again? Or is it Eilers?
Jockeying.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
He was bronze medalist in Rio, bronze medalist the last 2 years. This is a massive opportunity for a Wang to win the world.
I remember actually in the semi-final here, Hervey absolutely schooled me. The exact way I was talking about. Like I got to the front, I was about to get to the front, and he made it so hard for me to get to the front. I was just on his hip for like 2 laps. Obviously then didn't make the final, but it was an absolute masterclass what he did. I remember Jan not being very happy with it.
But what could you have done, like without me saying that, what could you have done different?
Thing is, I had the speed. Like I knew I had the speed to like win that semi. He just drew me into that hip position, and then I couldn't get out of it. So like, you know, when you commit a bit, and then you kind of, I've already committed, I've got to keep committing, and then by the time you do 2 laps on the outside, you're backwards.
It's hard to know what to do about it though.
I think you've either got to just punch as hard as you can to try and avoid it when you first move,
Yeah.
or just hope you can muscle your way out of it. Because once you commit, you can't really back out and go again.
At the time, I had good peak speed, but my jump wasn't as good. So like, for me to get to the front, I had to go quite early. And I think in that race, in my semi, I ended up going quite late and getting stuck there, basically.
If you're in P1 here, you're licking your lips a bit, I think.
Yeah, Kellerman.
Moves up on the outside. 3 laps of racing to go. They're all going to be pretty tight together. This is a big moment for these riders. Glaitzer goes to the front very early. 2 laps.
This is just an example of like sitting in the bunch, basically.
You think it's just like in a club run.
And that's what won in the race. That's what won in the race right there when he got under the check.
Glaitzer
the lap and a quarter to go because he was out of it until then.
I think everyone was just barging on each other, wearing themselves out as well, weren't they?
Yeah, everyone was.
No one really took it up. Everyone was just there.
Everyone was spending energy, but not really making any progress.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
kind of just tucked in. Yeah, that was a cool race.
Well, yeah, I think there's obviously a bunch of guys. There's a lot of barging going on, jockeying for position. A lot of energy being spent without actually anyone really taking up the race and putting themselves in a good position. Wang was at the back, keeping his powder dry. He hit it hard in the last lap and a half. Stayed in the bunch through his excel, so he sort of maximised the slipstream. Then when he hit the front, no one had anything really to respond to it with.
Thing I always find fascinating with Keirin is how when he goes. So to me, you know, honestly, like Keirin is definitely a space where I feel that I either hit out hard and have a fast last 200, or it goes wrong. So that moving in the pack and in the bunch is something I find really difficult. How confident, like when he's at the back, sat there, and he's kind of filtering through, how confident do you think he is that there's going to be a gap, or do you think? What's the mindset like when you sat at the back and everyone's banging into each other in front of you?
It's difficult, but you know that's really your only option. Like you might have 5 races where that opportunity doesn't arise, but then there is that one race where it does arise and you look like the hero. So I think it's like it's been able to put out a decent amount of power to stay with the bunch, but still quite relaxed and open to those ideas.
And do you think that decision on whether you sit on the outside and risk getting stuck, but try and pass on the outside, or ride into gaps and hope they open up, is that based on like experience or how your legs are feeling?
Complete gut fit, like instinct. I think you can't. I don't think you can. In that moment, you're going 80k an hour. I don't think people are thinking about one or the other. I think it's almost gut instinct and feel for how the race is going. He probably felt there that there's been a lot of jockeying, a lot of moving around, but the pace still isn't super high. So he probably thought his best bet was to do that.
Pace was high enough though that you probably don't want to be sat above the blue line trying to get your way around in the last lap.
I think Keirin's so feel based. You've got to feel how the race is going and like use your instincts really. Whereas sprinting, you can kind of like cognitively know what's going on because you're able to think about one other rider quite easily. Where in Keirin, you can't do that. You can't keep mental focus of 5 other riders and how they're moving. So you've got to go with more like the feel of the race and instinctively if you think something's going to work and just go for it.
Do you think that just comes through practice and racing?
Yeah, repetition, I think. And obviously watching races is great because it sort of brings you one way to imagining what you might do in that scenario. But when you're actually in it, I think just having that feel and that gut feel for what you should do.
Out of interest, I know this is a little bit of a tangent, but I heard a podcast with Perko recently who said how beneficial racing out in Japan was for when he returned because he just raced like 100 Keirins over a season. Did you find that helped you when you came back?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, one, like confident in the bunch because there's so much like barging and pushing around that when I went to like back to international racing, it felt really safe. Although you're moving quicker and on a tighter track, it felt safe because there's no contact. But yeah, I think just the repetition of sprinting full gas in a group of, well, in Japanese Keirin, it's 9 of you, really allows you to kind of have that mental clarity in the bunch because he's used to all that movement. But it does help a lot. I think also in Japan, you've got so many more variables. You're outdoors in the rain with the wind, getting hit from other riders. So I think when you come back to indoor racing or international racing, it kind of feels more simple.
Was it a shock to the system to go over there and have that level of jostling and?
It was to a point, but my tactic was always Senko, which is like I want to get to the front for the last lap. So most of that movement was sort of happening behind me, but it wasn't that. The more the shock to the system was racing on different bikes and outdoors and all the elements really. And I think all of that prepares you really well for riding back indoors where it's a lot more controllable.
One thing I love about, or find fascinating about Keirin's is you get some very, very, very good Keirin riders who don't feature in the sprint. Like in my head, that's like mind blowing in a way that you get guys who are consistently making finals who are top 15 in the sprint. They just haven't got the raw speed, but are able to ride so well. Like it feels like it's an event where being good at it at a truly international level, like elite level, is like not a unique skill, but not everyone can learn it. You know, many people go through a whole career and never really crack it.
Yeah, I think sprint and Keirin, I think they're quite different in terms of attributes. Sprinting, you got 3 laps from a dead start you've got, and you know within a lap and a half you're going to be almost full gas. Whereas in Keirin, it's much more slow build up. So Keirin, I think, is much more about average power over 30 seconds on quite big gears, whereas sprints much more snappy and much more about accelerating within a quarter of a lap to 80% of your peak speed. So I think physiologically they're actually quite different. Although they're both sprint events, they are quite different. I think that probably explains why you got some people that are like Keirin specialists, but they may struggle in the sprinting. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to different horses for courses.
If you get those riders who are sort of really specialised at 30 seconds flat power, I think just again and again in a match sprint, they get caught out by a big Excel they can't live with. And that's why you see them sort of struggle to climb the ranks in the sprint. But when a Keirin's kicking off with 2 laps to go, whatever kick they have, they can basically sit at that power for the 30 seconds, 40 seconds that they need to. And I think you sort of got to commend it. I think a lot of the time people sweep people like that under the carpet, like, oh, how have they got to the Keirin final again? They're 16th in the 200. But it is a different skill, and I think we've got to respect it in international sprinting as well.
Wang is kind of the master of that, right?
Mm.
He's always in the final, but
Yeah.
never in the sprint final, really.
There are riders in Keirin that consistently make finals. I think they're riders that have quite similar race strategies, and no matter who they're racing, they do similar things. Because I think sprinting, you've got to be a little bit more. You're racing one-on-one with someone who may have completely different attributes.
I think some people love it as well, you know. So like, there's like, you know, in terms of event priority, the sprint has always been like the blue ribbon event. Like that's the one to win. But then you get some people that just love Keirin and that's their main event. It's an interesting one. I think. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, it's somehow I almost feel that the sprint. So, for example, with national team selection, people, or certainly in GB, the sprint's kind of the one that you get picked for a bit more, and then off the back of that.
I think.
Do you know what I mean? Do you agree with that?
I think that's only because of the 200. Like if Keirin had 200 seeding before it got announced, then I think that would be the same. I think it's just because the sprint has the 200, which is like a mark of peak speed, which goes into Keirin, I think. But different countries put different.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
I think Keirin, for GB, Keirin's less. It's a less controllable event, which makes me love it more because it's like you can go in with a game plan. Something else can happen, and it's very, very exciting. I think where I think other people prefer sprinting because it's like a controllable in terms of a 200. But for me, I think Keirin's pretty exciting. I think it's probably the most exciting event on track.
That is the end of the episode on the Blackline Coaching Podcast. If you'd like to hear more episodes, you can click here. Or if you'd like to learn more about Blackline Coaching, you can check us out on our website. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you soon.